As you start to listen now, as you feel the words flowing in and around your awareness, you might begin to notice something interesting, a shift, a sensation, a realization emerging effortlessly. Because for so long, the mind learned a way of being, a way of moving through the world, watching, scanning, measuring, waiting for approval, waiting for recognition, waiting for that little sign that says, yes, you're enough, yes, you belong, yes, you matter. And what an interesting game that is. A game where the rules, they were never truly yours. A game where the prize kept moving, where the goalposts were set by others, shifting, elusive, always just beyond reach. And so you ran, you adjusted. You played the part so well, didn't you? You became what was needed, what was expected, until one day you paused, and something in you whispered, but what about me? What about my voice? What about what I want? What about what I love? And maybe, just maybe, that silence you feel now, that space where motivation once lived, it isn't emptiness at all, but an opening, an invitation, not a loss, but a beginning. Because before action was driven by them, their judgment, their standards, their definitions of success, of worth, of value. And now there's a new question, a new possibility. What if you could move, act, create, simply because it feels right, because it excites you, because it matters to you, because somewhere inside there's a knowing, a whisper, a voice that says, this is what I love. And as you allow yourself to become aware of this, something happens, doesn't it? A curiosity, a spark, a possibility you hadn't considered before. And it's funny, isn't it? How easily you once shaped yourself for others. How quickly you adapted. And if you could do that so effortlessly for them, imagine how natural, how powerful it'll be when you begin doing it for you. Because somewhere inside, that knowing already exists. And as you breathe, as you listen, as you allow these words to settle deep within, you begin to notice now, don't you? That feeling, that knowing, that awareness growing softer. And isn't it fascinating how even now, something inside is shifting, aligning, opening up to new possibilities, new pathways, new ways of thinking, feeling and being. And as this new way of seeing takes root, as the old patterns dissolve, you may begin to notice sooner than you expected that there's something somewhere inside you that excites you, calls to you, compels you. And when you find it, and you will, you'll know. And as you listen now, as you follow the flow of these words, not with your conscious mind, but with something deeper, something that's always been listening, something that knows more than you even realize. There's a moment, isn't there? A moment when everything just shifts, when the world that once made sense starts to feel unfamiliar, when the patterns that used to drive you, they just don't anymore. Because for so long, the mind was conditioned, trained, shaped like clay in the hands of expectation, adapting, adjusting, fitting perfectly into the spaces others created. So perfectly, in fact, that somewhere along the way, a question was left behind. What do I want? And isn't that an interesting question? Because the moment it arises, everything changes. And maybe, just maybe, that feeling, that space, that pause you've been noticing, it isn't an absence at all, but a doorway. Not emptiness, but possibility. Because what happens when a river stops flowing in its usual path? For a moment, stillness. For a moment, uncertainty. And then something new begins. Because all your life, movement had a purpose, didn't it? An audience, a judge, a standard to meet. And without that, without the weight of their eyes, their approval, their expectations, the movement stops. And in that stillness, something else awakens. And as you listen to these words, as you feel them settle into the spaces where old belief once lived, you can begin to realize there's something else underneath it all, something untouched, something that's been waiting for you all along. Because before, you were taught to search outside, to look for meaning in their reactions, to find validation in their approval, to seek direction in their desires. But what happens now? Now those things no longer drive you. Now the world no longer tells you who to be, how to act, what to want. For some, that moment feels like a big loss. And yet, for others, for those who are ready, it's like freedom. Because when you realise the motivation you once had was borrowed, then you notice something even more powerful. You no longer need it. Because inside you, there's something far greater, a different kind of fuel, a different kind of drive, not to impress but to express, not to please but to create, not to prove but to explore. And isn't it interesting how once you see this, really see it, something inside shifts, like a puzzle piece clicking into place, like a long forgotten song suddenly remembered. Because the truth is, you never lacked motivation. You only needed to claim it as your own. And as these words settle in, as they take root deep inside, you might begin to notice, without even trying, there's something, a pull, a whisper, a knowing, that tells you exactly what to do next. And when you listen to it, you'll know.